A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Luke. Jesus took Peter, James, and John and went up the mountain to pray. And while he was praying, his face changed in appearance, and his clothes became dazzling white. And behold, two men were conversing with him, Moses and Elijah, who appeared in glory and spoke of his exodus that he was going to accomplish in Jerusalem. Peter and his companions had been overcome by sleep, but becoming fully awake, they saw his glory, and the two men standing with him. As they were about to part from him, Peter said to Jesus, "Master, it is good that we are here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, one for Elijah." But he did not know what he was saying. And while he was still speaking, a cloud came and cast a shadow over them, and they became frightened. When they entered the cloud, then from the cloud came a voice that said, "This is my chosen Son, listen to him." After the voice had spoken, Jesus was found alone. They fell silent and did not at that time tell anyone what they had seen. The Gospel of the Lord. This week we compare and contrast our Lord's journey into the desert with his transfiguration on the Mount of Olives. We go with Jesus into the desert. We too face temptations in the same desert, only to realize that soon the glory will be revealed, that we, if we follow him into the desert, will also experience his glory. He shows us that, yes, we must be willing to go into the desert if we are going to experience a springtime of faith. Sometimes we are distant, and yet we are called to embrace in a new way. Yes, there may be brokenness, but God desires wholeness and fulfillment. Yes, there may be sadness, but there is also joy. There is brokenness sometimes in our own image, but God can restore that image. Sometimes things just don't work. Sometimes we need to think differently. Sometimes there's a winter of faith, but soon there is the fruitful springtime. Yes, there is death, but there is life in the midst of that death. There is brokenness, but sometimes that brokenness can create something really glorious. Sometimes we are called to enter the dark night of the soul only to find the midday of God's glory. Sometimes we simplify our lives in order that we might find the banquet, the fast before the feast. Sometimes we find ourselves alone, and yet we realize that actually we're called to a banquet with friends and family. Sometimes we may have to rebuild the wreckage of our past, but that wreckage can be turned into something truly glorious and triumphant. Sometimes there is the empty chair, but then there is the great embracing of all humanity. Sometimes we recognize we move from the old covenant to the new covenant of God's love. And this is the lesson that the Transfiguration teaches us today in this second Sunday of Lent.